Welcome to the Lit Report, the show where we unveil the literary gems of the moment. Today, we're diving into a work that has captured the attention of thousands of readers, Christ Mystery Unveiled, by pastor and author, José Tochon. Join us for this fascinating analysis.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take compelling sources, really dig in and pull out the key insights for you, cutting through all the noise. Today, we're taking on a topic that's really shaped, everything for millennia. Jesus Christ, his life, his work, and especially the historical evidence around his resurrection. We're using two main sources here: Christ, Mystery Unveiled by Pastor José Tochón, and the historical case for the resurrection of Jesus Christ, a comprehensive assessment. Our goal, to pull out the core stuff, clear up maybe some misunderstandings, and really look at the historical claims. Have you ever paused and thought, beyond just Sunday school, who was Jesus, really? And how solid is the historical backing? Okay, let's unpack this.
Exactly. And look, this isn't just, theology class. We're talking about critically looking at historical evidence. We're grappling with someone our sources call not only the most famous and slandered figure, but also the most misunderstood, manipulated, and hated person in history. That's quite a statement, right? It highlights why getting a handle on who he was and what he did is, pretty crucial for understanding history, faith, maybe even ourselves.
Absolutely. And right at the start, the sources push us on this question of truth. In a world saying truth is relative, where do you find absolute truth? And that's where Jesus' claim, I am the way, the truth, and the life, comes in. It's presented not just as an idea, but as the central key.
To really get that, we need to understand Christology, basically, the study of Jesus, who he is, what he did. And a core concept, absolutely foundational in our sources, is Jesus as the God-man. Now, that sounds like jargon, but the sources argue it's the only way you bridge the gap between an infinite God and finite humans. It describes this perfect, indivisible union, two natures, fully divine, fully human, in one person. The hypostatic union, it's not like he was 50-50. No, it's 100% God, 100% man. Distinct, but perfectly united. And not static either, like that quote from Ricardo Arjona, Jesus is a verb, not a noun. It's about action, connection.
Yeah, that verb idea helps.
Yeah.
And you see this dual nature pop up all through the scriptures as sources point to. His humanity, he was born of a woman, born under the law. He grew in wisdom and stature like any kid. He felt things, lived a real human life. But then his divinity, he says things like, I and the Father are one. He forgives sins, which, blew people's minds because only God could do that, right?
Precisely. And what's key, the sources stress, is he wasn't a man who became God. He was God who became man without stopping being God. Think John 1:14. And his divine nature influenced his human experience, like being 12 in the temple, amazing the scholars with his wisdom. Yet at the same time, he was submitting to his parents, being a normal kid in that sense. So the sources really position him as this ultimate bridge. Understanding him helps understand God and humanity. It's pretty profound.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to the really intense moments leading up to the cross, Gethsemane. The sources spend time here. What's so significant about that moment in the garden?
Gethsemane is pivotal. Jesus prays, Father, if you are willing, take this cup away. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. That's Matthew 26.39. This wasn't just, a quick prayer. It was agony, a real struggle, his human will grappling with the divine plan, but ultimately choosing submission. The sources note it was so intense an angel had to strengthen him. Luke 22.43. It shows the depth of his humanity and his obedience, even knowing the suffering ahead.
And then comes the trial, completely unjust, and our sources highlight Caiaphas tearing his robes. Why was that such a big deal?
Mark 14.63-64. It wasn't just drama. Tearing priestly robes was a serious violation of Jewish law in that context. Symbolically, our sources say Caiaphas basically signaled the end of the Old Covenant priesthood. That whole system of animal sacrifices, obsolete. He kind of disqualified himself, unintentionally making way for Jesus as the new high priest for the new covenant. It directly connects to the temple veil tearing when Jesus died, opening direct access to God.
And the physical suffering, even before the cross. The sources are quite graphic. The Roman scourging, the flagrum taxulatum.
Yeah, that whip was brutal. Designed to tear flesh, lead balls, bits of bone.
Horrific. And the crown of thorns, the beatings. Isaiah 52.1 talks about his appearance being marred beyond human recognition. The sources mention the Shroud of Turin analysis too, not to confirm it's the cloth, but to illustrate the kind of injuries involved. It makes the gospel accounts feel very, very real.
It does. And that physical agony, terrible as it was really just the prelude. The bigger burden spiritually was bearing the sin of the world. Connecting that back, it just highlights the immense cost. He was absorbing the wrath we deserved.
Which brings us right to Golgotha, the crucifixion. And that darkness from the 6th to the 9th hour. Matthew, Mark, Luke all record it. Not just a cloudy day, right?
No, the sources present it as something cosmic. Theologically, it fulfilled prophecy, like Amos 8.9. It signifies the moment Christ bore the full weight of God's wrath against sin. And that cry, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It sounds like despair, but the sources connect it directly to Psalm 22. It wasn't failure, it was fulfillment. Part of the plan. Like John Stott puts it, divine love triumphed over divine wrath through divine self-sacrifice. Powerful stuff.
In his last words, "It is finished." Tetelestai, paid in full, that signals completion. But what exactly was finished? Let's talk redemption. What does that really involve, according to the sources?
Great question. It's not just one simple thing. The sources actually break down redemption using 4 different Greek words, each adding a layer. First, agorazo. That's just purchase, like buying something in a market. Establishes cost, transfer of ownership.
Okay, basic buying.
Right. Then there's exorazo. That's more specific.
Yeah.
Buying out of, like buying someone out of slavery or out of the curse of the law, as Galatians 3.13 says. It implies liberation from a specific bad situation.
Got it. Buying out of bondage.
Exactly. Third is lutro. This means to ransom or set free by paying a price. 1 Peter 1.18 uses this redeemed by precious blood. It emphasizes the payment made for freedom.
Ransom price.
And finally, apolutrosis. This is the big one. Complete redemption, deliverance. It's the result. Being fully released from sin's power, its penalty. It covers forgiveness, justification, even future glorification. You see it in Romans 3.24, Ephesians 1.7.
Bro, so it's like from the initial purchase to the total complete freedom and new status, that is comprehensive.
It really is. And crucially, his sacrifice was once for all. No more repeated sacrifices like the Old Covenant. This leads to what the sources call regeneration. The Greek is palingenesia, or kainos. This isn't just turning over a new leaf, it's God making someone entirely new, irreversible. Your past doesn't define you anymore. 2 Corinthians 5.17, new creation. Hebrews 10 hammers this home too, a fundamental rebirth.
Okay, that brings us squarely to the bedrock claim, the resurrection. The sources are clear. If that didn't happen, Paul says, our preaching is empty and your faith is also empty. It's everything.
It absolutely is. And the historical case starts right with the New Testament itself. We have dates for the Gospels, Mark maybe AD 60s, 70s, Matthew and Luke a bit later, John maybe AD 75, 100. But the real kicker, historically speaking, is that creed Paul quotes in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 3 to 8. Scholars date this tradition Paul received to within, get this, 3 to 5 years of Jesus' death.
3 to 5 years, that's incredibly early.
It is. It's formulaic, like something already being recited. And it lists specific eyewitnesses, Peter, the 12, James, over 500 people at once, many still alive when Paul wrote. That makes it really hard to argue it's just a legend that grew over decades.
That's powerful internal evidence. But what about outside the Christian bubble? Any non-Christian sources confirming bits of this story?
Yes, several important ones. Our sources point to Tacitus, the Roman historian, writing around AD 116. He confirms Christus, his execution under Pilate, and the existence of Christians in Rome. Then there's Pliny the Younger, governor around AD 110. His letters to the Emperor Trajan talk about how widespread Christianity had become and how Christians worshipped Christ as a god, refusing to renounce him even under threat of death.
So persecution and growth confirmed externally.
And Flavius Josephus, the Jewish historian, writing in the early 90s AD, he mentions James, the brother of Jesus who was called the Christ. That reference is widely accepted. His other passage, the Testimonium Flavianum, is debated regarding Christian additions, but most scholars accept a core statement confirming Jesus existed, did remarkable deeds, had followers, and was crucified.
Okay, so historical figures, external accounts. What about archaeology? Does that add anything tangible?
It does provide context. The discovery of Johannan's remains in 1968 was significant. A first-century crucifixion victim.
Right, you mentioned him earlier.
Yes. Nailed heel bones, fractured legs. It matches the brutality described in the Gospels, makes crucifixion very real, not just a story. And finding his bones in an ossuary, a bone box, fits first-century Jewish burial practices, showing bodily resurrection wasn't a totally foreign concept, even if Jesus' resurrection was unique.
Beyond texts and bones, though, maybe the most striking argument is the change in the disciples. These guys went from hiding in fear to boldly proclaiming Jesus' resurrection, facing death themselves. How do the sources explain that?
That transformation is a cornerstone of the historical case. Look at Paul, from persecutor to preacher after he believed he met the risen Christ, or Peter denied Jesus, then died for him. James, Jesus' own brother, initially skeptical, became a leader and martyr. The argument is people might die for a deeply held belief, even if it's mistaken, but would groups of people knowingly die for something they knew was a lie? Especially a lie that brought them nothing but suffering and death? It's highly improbable, historically speaking.
And that rapid growth Pliny mentioned, despite intense persecution. It suggests something incredibly powerful was motivating these early Christians.
Exactly. Which is why the sources also take time to address the alternative explanations. The stolen body idea. Logistically tough. Roman guards, heavy stone, unwrapping the linens. And why didn't the authorities just produce the body if they had it or found it?
Right, that would have ended it right there.
Precisely. The swoon theory, Jesus just fainted. Surviving crucifixion, scourging, blood loss, then pushing a stone and appearing victorious. Physically near impossible. He'd look like he needed a doctor, not worship.
Yeah, not very convincing as a resurrected Lord.
And the hallucination hypothesis. Hallucinations are usually private, individual. The idea of over 500 people, different times, different places, all having the same complex, detailed hallucination of seeing, touching, eating with Jesus. Psychologically, that just doesn't hold water for group experiences like those described.
So when you examine those alternatives critically, they seem to fall short against the evidence presented.
That's the argument the sources make, yes.
We've covered a lot of ground, from who Jesus is, that God-man mystery, through his suffering, his death, the meaning of redemption, and now this compelling historical case for the resurrection. It really paints Jesus as this central figure, divine and human, whose actions fundamentally change things.
The sources really hammer home that Christ is the message of the Bible, the mystery hidden, but now revealed. Understanding him isn't just, an academic exercise. It's presented as vital for grasping the core of Christian faith.
So as you listening, reflect on this deep dive. Think about the weight of this story. It's theological, yes, but as we've seen, it's deeply intertwined with historical claims, eyewitness accounts, and evidence that demands some kind of explanation.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, drawing from the sources. If God's purpose, as they suggest, was to create a world revealing his glory, and Jesus is central to that revelation, what does this mystery unveiled mean for your search for purpose and meaning today? Something to consider.